Good afternoon, everybody. Let me begin by thanking all of you for taking the time to come out this afternoon to hear a very, very important presentation on the future of the University of Pittsburgh at Titusville. We've been eagerly awaiting the news that you're about to hear, and I ask everyone to keep an open mind as you listen to the presentation that the provost will provide. I think it'll be good news for the region, good news for the community, and it'll bring certainty, a bit more certainty to our campus. And I want to thank our faculty and our staff. You've worked very, very hard over these last, especially over the last 5 years, as we've sought to keep the campus together and continue to provide the best and the highest quality education for the students who have come to this campus. I'd like to especially welcome and thank the advisory board members who have been with us every step of the way. I'd like to introduce them individually and ask them to stand as I call their names. I'll begin with Emil Spatafor, who's been the chair for 9 years, has been especially active over the last 5-6 years. Richard Roeder is here. Richard, Dick, are you here? Dick, thank you. Ken Winger. Thank you, Ken. Karen Jazz. Karen. John Peterson, Congressman John Peterson. Steve Coleman. Thank you, Steve. Annie Knepp. Thank you, Annie. Jim Duratz. Thank you, Jim. And Bruce Smith is here as well. Bruce, would you join me in a round of applause for our board members? I also want to thank our provost, who has been working very, very hard with her staff to develop this idea of an innovative initiative for the Titusville campus, which I think you'll find very, very exciting. And the provost will come up to introduce special guests to our campus, members of the Board of Trustees, as well as other friends of the university. So Provost Beeson, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone for coming out to talk with us about the proposal that we have for the Titusville campus. We're here to talk about our efforts to create an education and training hub here in Titusville that would serve the broad 6-county region in which Titusville is right at the center. As Livingston said, we have a number of our trustees here with us today. They want to learn more about the project that we're undergoing here and hear the community's reaction to the proposal. And it's important input into the board's discussion about this proposal that we're going to be making to them at their February meetings. With that, I'd just like to take a moment to introduce a few of the trustees. One is Doug Browning, who is the chair of our Academic Affairs and Libraries Committee. And he is, that's the committee that's taking primary responsibility for the discussion around the future of the Titusville campus. Other members that are here with us today of that committee are Carol McGrevin. Carol is an educator from Georgia and Florida who came in and has been serving on this committee, helping us think about possibilities moving forward. Al Moyer, who also has a career in education, former faculty member at the University of Pittsburgh, who went on to do a variety of education and training programs in the technology industry and is now living in the Bay Area. Bill Strickland, whom some of you may know as the founder and CEO of the Manchester Bidwell Training Centers in Pittsburgh, and also Pete Verichetti, who's on the board of trustees, and he's also the leader of an innovative center in Brockway that has some aspects of it that we're trying to build on here. We all spent the morning over at Brockway looking at their center, which is an innovative way of combining traditional education that's offered through a community college and the training that happens through a training center at Manchester Bidwell. And it brings it all together in a very interesting and exciting way. I'd also like to take a minute to thank several of the local legislators who have come here to talk with us about this idea and hear what we have to say and give us reactions. They've been great supporters as we've been trying to move this project forward, and I want to thank them for all that they've been doing to help us with this. Lee James, thank you, and Michelle Brooks. Michelle, thank you. Scott Hutchison, Kathy Rapp, and Brad Rowe. I'm not sure if there's differences left, right side of the aisle here, but we're happy to have them all here with us. This proposal that we're going to talk about today is the result of conversations that we've been having over the last year and a half with members of the community, political leaders, business leaders, our faculty, our staff, with some of the students about what we can be doing in Titusville to make this a better asset to the region in terms of providing education and training. We think it's a really exciting opportunity to address several trends that have been facing higher education globally, but most particularly seen when we look at the rural regions. The trends include, of course, population decline. That's something that we've all talked a lot about, and the declining numbers of high school graduates. But perhaps more important than that, there's been a real change in the types of education and training that are needed in the United States to advance our economy. As things have changed in the economy, the workforce needs have also changed. Post-secondary education, as currently modeled, is not set up to deal with these changes. When we look at the way it's structured, it's very siloed. So we have training centers that might be off at this location. We have a community college over here offering a different set of programs, a 4-year college, a 2-year liberal arts college, a university, PhD level programs. Each is very segmented, off in their own location, and offering their own programs in isolation. They have different missions, and they're loosely connected in some cases through articulation agreements, but even that is a very loose arrangement to try to bring together these different providers. In low-density populations of the rural areas, this need to have a broad range of programs that are all being offered separately has created a problem because not any one of those individual providers is there enough demand for their particular type of program. So there's been various attempts to try to address this question of having a variety of training programs along with the low population densities. Some of these attempts have tried to broaden the reach of individual siloed providers, to have a community college that has networks throughout a region is one way to try to address this need to have a market that's big enough for the services that they're offering and to help spread the costs over a broader geographic area. Some institutions have tried to diversify themselves and offer the full range of programs, going from the training centers all the way up through master's and sometimes doctoral degrees. And in most cases, when an institution tries to do that, they're getting out of their areas of expertise. And so they're starting to branch into areas where they don't really have the specialization to offer the high-quality programs that the more specialized institutions do. So what we're proposing here is a third approach to addressing this question of offering a variety of programs at a scale that can be sustained. And we're trying to do this by bringing together providers from 3 separate sectors at a single location. This will help to address this question of cost by splitting the cost, the fixed costs of operation, across 3 different institutions. But more importantly, it's going to allow each of the institutions to focus on those programs that they have the expertise to offer as excellent programs, not just okay covering the bases, but really specialize in the programs that they have the experience to offer. The co-location, as we envision it, is going to promote collaboration, not just articulation. We see these programs as being carefully knitted together, drawing from the expertise of the different types of institutions that are co-located at the site. We could also draw on the networks that each one of these institutions has back to their broader institution. So the same way that Pitt at Titusville has been able to draw on the expertise of Bradford and the Pittsburgh campus as we've offered programs here, bringing in partners will allow us to plug into a whole network of training centers that are run by Manchester Bidwell and a whole set of programs offered by our community college partner, so that we can bring together the sorts of programs that are needed. So we see this as becoming the go-to place for both employers and individuals looking for training. That if there's an employer in the area or one who's looking to relocate to this area, they know that they can come to this education and training hub and say, this is the sort of training that we need to get started or to locate here or to continue to grow. And we can then, the leader of the educational hub can go to the core providers that are in place here and say, what programs can you offer to help promote this? And if they don't have the programs, they can work together to create those programs. Or they can bring in the special expertise from the Pittsburgh campus or the community college or even another provider to help get the exact types of programs that are needed here. So the employers can look at this as the place to go, but in that same way, people looking for education and training will have one place to go. Instead of going to the community college and going to the training centers and going to the universities to see what sorts of programs they offer, they can come to this education and training hub and talk to someone about what their aspirations are, and that person can help direct them to the right program across a whole range, rather than trying to fit that student into the particular program that the University of Pittsburgh or Manchester Bidwell offers. We also see it as an opportunity for each of us individually and our partners to innovate. It's a way that we can start stretching the way that we think about the educational programs that we offer to make them more suited to the needs of the dynamic economy as it's moving forward. So as we were thinking about formulating this model and having conversations with this community and with potential partners, we really sought out innovators who are leaders in their particular sectors. So we were fortunate to become engaged with Manchester Bidwell, an internationally recognized training center that's led by Bill Strickland, who won a MacArthur Genius Award for the work that he did in creating the Bidwell training centers. And BC3, the Butler County Community College, is perhaps one of Pennsylvania's most innovative community colleges. They were the first and probably the most aggressive in trying to offer community college courses and programs in rural areas that were outside of their county. They've developed a real expertise for offering those sorts of programs. We've also talked with the Rural Regional College, another innovator that's trying to pursue a different model of providing education to the less densely populated rural areas, and we've had some exciting conversations with them about what they're doing and how we might interface with them. We've also, as I said, been to the innovative Brockway Center that's led by Pete Berschetti as a very novel way of bringing together different educational programs, and in this case, different student bodies, both senior living at the site as well as high school programs and college level programs. So there's a whole different way of thinking about how education might be integrated into the life of a community. And in addition to offering some of our excellent health science-related programs and other programs that Pitt has traditionally offered, we've also reached out within the University of Pittsburgh to some of our most innovative centers, including the Manufacturing Assistance Center that offers a range of training programs in Pittsburgh, to our Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence that works with individual entrepreneurs and family business to sustain and grow their work, and also looking at some of our online and advanced post-baccalaureate training programs in areas like business, nursing, and others, where we can create tight links between this campus here and all the providers, not just the University of Pittsburgh, and their students to other programs that we have to offer. As I mentioned, we plan to make this proposal to the board at the February meeting, and the community support is going to be very important to that decision and that element of the discussion. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the real architect of this, who's been working closely with the community and with our partners, and that is Vice Provost Lawrence Fike, who is also a professor in our business school. So Larry?
Thanks, Patty. Good afternoon. It's good to see everybody here. I have lots of friends in Titusville these days. I'm going to try to do 5 things, and some of this, if you've been to some of these meetings in the past, will be incremental. It'll be incremental news on things you've already known, directions you've already seen established. And for those of you who have not been to as many of the meetings, it'll be more news. And in doing that, I'll repeat some of the things that the provost said a few moments ago, emphasize a few of the key points, and add a little bit of detail to them. So I do want to talk a bit about process, sort of how we got here. I'll do it briefly. Talk a bit more about the concept that the provost articulated, about Pitt's role in that concept. Talk about the partners that we've been mentioned already, that we're working with here, and also a bit about the report that we're preparing to be actually public released on Sunday. So I want to start by saying that I've had the privilege of spending quite a bit of time here in the community, getting to know people, getting to know businesses, knowing the faculty and staff, and so on. And I'll come to my bottom line about that in a few moments. But the conversations have both been informal. I've talked to people over lunch, over coffee, over beer, but also formal in focus groups, in organized fact-finding kinds of missions, and so on. And I don't know the city as well as you all do, but I'm learning more, and I'm getting better about understanding the community and the needs in the community. And that, I think, is, we hope, is translated into the document that we're preparing for, that sort of lays all this out in more detail. The formal meetings have been on and off the campus, big group meetings. We had one in November that was in that lobby with 30 or so people. We had people from the campus, people from the community, talking about, with Manchester Bidwell and talking with our Manufacturing Assistance Center about the kinds of needs that would be, that they see in the future in this community. Talked a bit about the concept as well. We've done organized road trips. We've organized road trips of the folks from Manchester Bidwell coming up here to visit the campus, touring, from Manufacturing Assistance Center coming up here to visit the campus, from the Rural Regional College coming here to visit the campus, from Butler County Community College coming here to visit the campus, and so on, and also road trips in the other direction. We've had groups from the community here going to Pittsburgh, going to Brockway, and so on to visit. There have been separate meetings of the Manufacturing Assistance Center and Manchester Bidwell with people. Believe it or not, there have been meetings that I didn't actually attend. I find that really hard to believe too, but there were some. I sat in on one of the meetings where Joanna Papita from Manchester Bidwell was working on making the connections between Manchester Bidwell and the school district, meeting with Karen Jez, talking about what they could do in common. Those discussions have really shaped the concept and the anticipated Pitt offerings on this campus. What I learned, though, was, sort of broader than that, the specifics that will be reflected in that document. I learned that the community cares an awful lot about the University of Pittsburgh and the importance of Pitt to the community, both as on these sort of economic grounds, but also as a source of pride for the community. The students on the campus that I've spoken to over the last year really admire the dedication of the faculty and the staff to their welfare and the kind of things that they think the university is doing for them. And that's not the university, that's the people here working with the students. A nursing student told me last spring that it was always her dream to come to Pitt. And the business community here, I think, really wants the university here and really wants to enhance the training of the workforce in the region, in part to attract new companies to the region, to have a more skilled workforce. And so those basics have sort of been a motivation for us in thinking about this model that the provost has talked about as a campus hub. And to sort of capture that in brief, the campus hub would be a set of closely linked organizations on this campus that would provide education and training that meets regional needs. And the focus would be on being very linked to the community so that we can reflect community needs in the offerings on the campus. And as the provost said, having the specialization on the campus of institutions in multiple sectors of the education business, being able to use their own specific expertise to address those kinds of needs. And another motivation for thinking about this has been that the state and university set this campus up in 1963 to serve the community. And I think what that meant in 1963 is different what it means now. And I think serving the community now has a kind of there are different needs that have emerged over these last 50+ years. What we're proposing, I believe, is new and exciting. Really new and exciting. And in some ways that makes it risky. But it's not without precedent. The provost has already mentioned that Pete Varischetti in Brockway ends up being really sort of the genesis of the idea for us, the co-location of educational institutions in a single physical plant so that they share some of the overhead of operating the facility. There's also in Ohio, there's a community college co-located with a university. And in eastern Pennsylvania, there is a close articulation between training, skills-based training, community college, and university training. So there are models for this, nothing quite like what we're talking about, but they're models which reduce the risk of moving this direction, it seems to me. But the way to think about this, I think, is to start with the Parkside complex in Brockway, where you have Butler County Community College and Manchester Bidwell and senior living apartments that are occupying the former home of Brockway Glass headquarters in Brockway. Great idea, 3 independent organizations sharing the overhead, cost of facilities, and so on. So what's different? So in some ways, I think about this as turbocharging the Brockway idea, right? What makes it different? Well, first of all, we'd add a university to the mix. So there's a university, community college, and a training center. So multiple sectors of the educational market are captured. Second, the concept really works if we link the program offerings across the providers so that students can easily move among programs, take courses from multiple program providers, earn kind of what we call in the business now stackable credentials, where they can earn certificate, and those certificates add up to a degree perhaps. But we can have different credentials offered by different groups, different providers, and they add up to something across the providers. Sorry about that. Too much. I have no Italian in my background either. I don't know what it is. And then have a place that students can not just get their start, but of a place where there's a career ladder possibility, so they can take a credential and come back and add some additional courses to that, to be able to move up and move up in their organizations. And minimize barriers to that, and minimize barriers that are, I think, easy to minimize, like courses that don't count for another program or for transfer, that kind of thing. Reduce those kinds of barriers. A third thing that we would do that I think is a little different than Parkside and at Brockway is that we would focus program offerings on the regional educational training needs with constant real-time links to the community through this campus leader that was mentioned by the provost. An individual who would be out in the community with strong community connections, proactively seeking new opportunities for new kinds of programs that we need. With multiple partner institutions, she'd always be able to say, yes, we can do that for you. And if there wasn't someone on the campus that could do it, she'd go out and find someone that could provide that service for them. And I think that captures the kind of, that vision captures the kind of notion that the provost said when she was talking about how it'd be the go-to place. It would have that kind of gravity because they know that if they came there, that's where they could get their needs met. That implies we would be able to nimbly adjust programs as needs changed in the marketplace. We would also add participation of other institutions as training opportunities came up, and we would hope that we would partner more seriously with the public schools, too. We've had those conversations, already with your superintendent. So that's the vision for the concept. So what's Pitt in this concept? So I think it's useful to think about Pitt having two key roles. One is in setting up the campus hub. So Pitt would take the lead in working with other partner providers, community business leaders, public sector partners, in establishing the campus as a multi-institution education and training hub, a resource for the region. Second, Pitt would work with the partner providers to identify campus leader, identify highest need programs for the region, and design and launch the organization and physical structures best suited to advancing the concept. And third, Pitt will commit financial resources to both renovating and repurposing campus facilities required to realize the vision for the campus. So that's one role, organizing this hub. And the second role is Pitt as an education provider. In some ways, the lead education provider, because it's the brand name that's known in Titusville. But we would need to be maybe the strongest among equals or something like that in this set. We would have to have clear, equal partners working with us on this. And the partners would include the community, obviously, that we talked about already, and a community college and a training center to start. We would offer, the Pitt side of this now, we would offer academic programs that build on the university's brand reputation and expertise. We're going to do things that are in our wheelhouse. That's what we're going to focus on. What does that mean? We're going to offer courses and programs at the associate degree level, and we envision adding degree completion and advanced and post-baccalaureate programs offered via online, hybrid, executive formats through transfer to other Pitt campuses and so on. The campus should have a broader array of kinds of things that it's doing that, again, focused on meeting the regional needs. We would be a great partner. We would collaborate with the other partner providers to design and provide programs aimed at meeting specific regional needs in areas where Pitt's expertise can strengthen the programs. So what I'm saying is we would do our programs that meet needs, but we would add our expertise to their programs too, to collaborate on getting things done. Where we can be a help, where we have skills that are needed in other programs, we would want to participate in that as well. We would provide pathways to higher degrees for students completing programs offered by the partner education providers. It would be seamless. The students who are in a community college program would seamlessly transfer to other programs at the University of Pittsburgh. That's the vision. Again, the theme, again, is just integration across the providers and across programs. Pitt would also, as the provost mentioned, we would offer non-degree programs based on our skills and expertise. The two places that came up offering those from the university would be the Manufacturing Assistance Center, I'll talk about that in a moment, which offers certificate programs, shorter than a year kinds of programs in things like CNC operation and so on. And also our Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence, we've talked to about bringing entrepreneurship programs onto the campus as well. So that was point two, the Pitt role. Third, the partners. We have folks in the audience here who know more about our potential partners, at least some of them, than I do. So I'll turn to them in a moment, but I do want to reiterate what the provost said a second ago. Manchester Bidwell is an amazing organization, 50 years plus in Pittsburgh with a track record of placing so many students into jobs and students who would not be conventional students by any measure. Manchester Bidwell is in the middle now of a feasibility study for what they would suggest offering here in Titusville. I've got the preliminary report from them about a month ago, and they're talking about medical assisting, electronic medical records, and academic remediation for adults in the community, and youth programs targeted to ceramics and metal arts in the community. And those, as I said at the beginning here, Joanna Papita from Manchester Bidwell has already been in contact with Karen Jez at the Titusville area school district in doing partnership on some of those programs with the schools. The community college, the provost mentioned that we've had conversations with two really innovative institutions. One is the Rural Regional College, now the Northern Pennsylvania Regional College. And those of you, I'm sure you've read in the newspaper about them. They have now an academic administrative headquarters in Warren, Pennsylvania. And their business model is that they have a very light footprint. They originate courses at different locations, and students take the courses via interactive TV at different locations. That's the model they want. They don't want to have physical presence. But they're committed to the rural regions and addressing higher education needs in the rural regions. And it seems like there should be some link between what we're trying to do and what they're trying to do. It's that our basic models differ quite a bit. They want no footprint, essentially, no buildings and so on, no physical presence. And we want a committed partner on this campus to work with us in the community college. So there are issues there. We're still having conversations with them about partnerships, but we haven't resolved quite the fundamental differences in the models. The other is Butler County Community College. Butler County Community College has demonstrated they can work in Armstrong County, Jefferson County, Lawrence County, and Mercer County. They have satellite operations in each of those counties, in addition to the main campus in Butler. I'm speaking to their board next week about what we're trying to do, so that's also moving along in conversation. They're very interested in working with us, and I think that we're working to, that the kinds of programs they would offer would be programs that we could work together on, not just have them offer the things they do at this as a location. Again, it's a model of integration of the partners. The Manufacturing Assistance Center, the provost also mentioned, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, offers certificate-based programs in basic training in equipment, machines, CNC operation, and so on. The MAC, as it's called in Pittsburgh, is committed to operating a mini MAC in Titusville, where they would run the same kinds of programs they do in Pittsburgh, programs in basic machinist training, CNC operation, and mechanical maintenance. And those programs were suggested to them through their interviews with people in the manufacturing community here in the Titusville and greater Titusville region. We mentioned briefly already, talking also with the school district and the Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence as partners as well. So those things are moving along. And in part, what you're hearing is getting things to the point where we know we have a feasible concept, and now it's a question of going back to the Board of Trustees to talk about what the concept is to move this more forward, move this farther forward. In that vein, we've worked on a report that lays out the concept. The report has two sort of components. One is the concept. It talks about what the vision is, how we'd operationalize it, and so on. And the second part of it is a straw man case for the finances. And it really focuses on, can the model work even at a very small scale? What's the worst case for the institution? And it's done that way because it's in part of our work in reporting to the Board of Trustees, where they have a obligation to be our look over our finances. So there are fiduciary agents in this, essentially. So it has those two components to it. And something else that I think is part of the report that you'll see when it's released on Sunday is that we separate the operation of the academic programs, Pitt's second role that I talked about, from the operation of the physical plant itself. Both of those things had to make sense financially, since the campus now becomes not Pitt's campus only, but the campus that is the home to other institutions as well. So those are both analyzed separately, and even at a very small scale, we show that we can break even, which is what the goal is for nonprofits. I'd also say that the small scale is a demonstration case. Our vision is broader. We envision a broader set of programs here on this campus for Pitt and for the partners. But we can't do that without partners, and our next step is to go to the board to talk to them about what this vision is and how it would work, to essentially get their agreement. The next step would be to go work with the partners to come up with the sort of final form. As the provost also mentioned, that it's really important for the board to understand the impact that this would have on the community. As I said, we're a not-for-profit. Our goal is an educational institution. It's not making a profit, but the outcome of our investments are going to be impact on the community, and so that's critical to the board's thinking about how good of an investment is this for the institution to make. And with that, I think I'll turn things back over to the provost for a second before we go to a question and answer session. Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Larry. This right now is at a concept level, and we've done, as you can see, a lot of due diligence, looking to engage partners who will work with us to identify them and work with them to see what this would be like. But we don't have every detail worked out, and we have a number of contingencies that are going to have to be met before this can be realized. We need to make sure that we have community partners who are equally invested in this project. We are going to be working with the public sector to get support for co-investing in this idea with us and the success. We're going to be proposing to the Board of Trustees that we would work diligently between now and September to clear those contingencies, to get the sort of support that we need from both the community and from the state government and the county to move this forward. We're also, in the interim, proposing that we continue to aggressively recruit the class for 2018, for the coming fall, and that we are proposing that the University of Pittsburgh programs on this campus continue to operate in full, so that that class that's recruited has 2 full years to complete their degrees at the University of Pittsburgh. And then for those who haven't completed within that time frame, we would make arrangements for their transfer, if needed, to another campus. So in total, we're talking about running the programs that we're currently offering through the summer of 2020. Once we set up the more details that are needed and clear all the contingencies, we'll be also setting up milestones for success of the hub so that we're sure that we're moving it along in a direction that is meeting the needs of all the partners, including the community. And we would be setting up a board, advisory board for this hub if it's approved to move forward in March, so that we would have a guiding board that would include the partners, the community, and Pitt to try to really make sure that we get this set up in a way that it's going to be successful and really have a positive impact on the way in which training is offered in this region. And as I said at the beginning, we really believe, from what we've seen of higher education and what we've come to learn about higher education in rural communities, that this could be a dramatic change in what we do, and it could be a model that's used not just in Pennsylvania, but throughout the country to address this broad range of needs in the rural communities. With that, I'd like to invite questions or comments on the proposal. As I said, we're really here to learn what you think about this as a concept for the Titusville region. And here I do mean not just the city, but the full 6-county region. Tammy, I think, has a microphone and David, are you helping with the microphones as well? And I think Richard's standing up, so I assume you would like to speak.
Good afternoon, Dr. Beeson, everyone. So the thing of it is then that what you're saying is that the campus will continue doing what the campus is currently doing until, did you say 2020?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now then, there has been a concern on the part of some people about whether our faculty resources, as they currently stand, and you have been in discussions with Butler County Community College, have you not?
Yes, we have.
Okay. In these discussions, has Butler indicated that it will transition our current faculty in the arts and sciences to its programs once that partnership is effected?
I'll leave that, I'll let Larry follow up on me, but as I said, right now we're at the point that we have stated interest from partners, but we have not worked through the details. I'm going to ask Larry to comment if he's had any specific discussions about the transition of the faculty. I will say that the faculty is a resource for all of the partners, as is the staff, and it's available to all. And Larry?
Thank you.
So the basic answer to your question is no. We haven't had that conversation yet. And as I said, I'm actually meeting with their board next week, and they've submitted a proposal to us, which is about programs and space they would need, those kinds of things. And again, the question you're asking has to be addressed a little bit farther downstream when both of the boards are in agreement about the direction at this stage. So we're still a step behind that kind of a point.
All right. The only thing I'll say is at this point then, that this is a matter that is of keen interest to the faculty here, and that keep in mind we talk about human resources. You have a great human resource here on this campus in place, and I would certainly hate to see that wasted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard.
I'm Lance Hummer from the Keystone Community Education Council. And Larry, one of the things I didn't hear you say, and I think is really a need, is with the apprenticeship programs. An example is there's a group of plastic companies in Northwest Pennsylvania that are working on an apprenticeship program, but what they want is training from different providers, depending on the discipline within that plastic area. And I was wondering if there's any chance at all in this model that you are going to be looking at that, because that's something that not only the state is emphasizing, but the federal government now is emphasizing the importance of apprenticeships, from pre-apprenticeships at the high school level on up to the full-blown ones, that those programs can then articulate into a potentially like an associate's degree or bachelor's degree. Is that going to be any part of this?
So the report talks about the linkage between the educational programs and industry. And so the way it talks about it is in various kinds of models that allow, I think of it as sort of the German model, where students move back and forth between educational institutions and apprenticeships and internships and so on in industry. And so it's part of the vision, but it is not yet developed out. Again, and I hate to come back to the same point, but we're just a step or two ahead of, that's a step or two ahead of where we are right now. But it's talked about as a desirable kind of relationship with industry in the report. And I think it's inherent in the kind of connections we want to have with the regional hirers of the students. I mean, it's in everybody's best interest, it seems to me.
I'll just elaborate a little to say that certainly the direction of higher education and all of our programs at the University of Pittsburgh, and I think the same is true of most institutions, is to really try to integrate the work experience with the educational experience. The apprenticeship model is the extreme example of that, but there's a lot of places in between the pure apprenticeship and the sitting in the classroom listening to a lecture. And it's that integration of the workforce training along with the educational training that I really think is the future of post-secondary education, and something that we're really going to try to build at a very high level at this institution, where we're integrating the training and the education either in the classroom or in the internships or through apprenticeship, co-ops, et cetera. I think they got someone in the back.
Good afternoon. I'd like to ask some questions about the economic impact on the Titusville community and where the model sees things going. For example, the residential students that live here have a significant impact on our community in a very positive way. And of course, our faculty and support staff that live and work and participate in the community and contribute in many ways to the Titusville area. Is this model envisioning this to be a residential campus that will retain faculty, support staff, and students living on campus? Or are you talking about turning it into, I'm hearing a lot of like remote learning, and are we looking at a commuter college kind of setting where everybody is just online and you don't have all of these other entities on staff here?
So I'd say that the way this is being described as being as a campus hub with partners, and I think the programs will determine the residential needs, and I think that the idea that was brought up earlier about the future involves both traditional and non-traditional students is kind of the way we're thinking about this. So focusing on residential versus non-residential, I think the future of residential is going to be not just traditional students, but students who might come, non-traditional students who might come and need to spend long weekends or week and a half in intensive kind of boot camp kinds of programs here on campus, and then spend more time back at work, those kinds of things. So my vision of this, and that has to be determined by working with the partners, is that we will have the programmatic questions drive the decisions about residence halls. And I think it's going to be determined by this kind of mix of students and the needs of the community for the kinds of programs that are needed here.
Will you still be recruiting students to fill traditional students to fill a dorm, or the dorms out of the question now?
At this point, just to
Just a
elaborate.
straightforward answer would be
At this,
great.
well, a straightforward answer is, we need to work with, we have to bring together these partners in our collaborative and determine what the housing needs are for the whole group. We can't, the University of Pittsburgh on its own, determine that. So I wish I could say yes or no, but right now, we have not decided, because we need to know what the community college's plans are. We need to know Manchester, Bidwell, and others. And so housing is not off the table or on the table at this point.
Okay. Second, will it still be the University of Pittsburgh at Titusville? Will the name still be there, or will we be Manchester Bidwell's regional campus? Because this was designed to be a regional campus of the University of Pittsburgh. Not a branch, not a hub, but a regional campus. So what does the name look like?
So the University of Pittsburgh will have University of Pittsburgh programs offered at this Titusville campus. We will keep our name on our programs. We have not yet decided exactly beyond that, but I envision that it will be the University of Pittsburgh nursing program at the Titusville campus. But the Titusville campus will now have other tenants as well. So Manchester
Correct.
Bidwell will have some program at the Titusville campus.
Okay. And I say this with slight emotion because I didn't introduce myself. My name is Tom Newcomb. I've been in this community for 31 years. I spent 2 years at UPT, probably the best years, well, not the best years of my life, but they were great. And I had some seasoned faculty. If I did not come here, I don't think I would have had a degree farther down the road. Now, I finished down at Shippensburg, but UPT was very important to the to the traditional student in me, okay? Now I'd be a non-traditional student, obviously. But my last child, my youngest, is now at Pitt Bradford. He had such a good experience here that he's getting honors on the honor roll at the Dean's List up at Pitt Bradford. So and I had 4 brothers, they're Pitt grads, and so my blood is gold and blue and gold, and not blue and white. And so, but really, and that's funny in a sense, but this place is near and dear to us. I mean, the brick and mortar, I think it's a beautiful place. I know that, brick and mortar universities are changing. I realize that. I realize we all have to change. But I hope that Pitt still keeps their shingle out here, and that it is a viable and important. I would hope there'd still be room for the non-traditional student in the region, not just Titusville, but in the region, to come to school here. I do some volunteer campus ministry work, but I'm paid by my church to do it. And the students that come down, make their way down to the Presby Church, nursing students, highly academic, trying their very best. I think a couple of students that stay here for 3 years, and they're still highly academic students. They love it here. And so I hope there is still room for a non-traditional student, as well as, I realize there's a lot going on and there's difference. But here, the community, this is vital. This is not only vital to this small community, but the region. Okay? Otherwise, we would have been a branch campus of, some other school.
I want to just be clear that, it would have been easy, I think, for us to say that economically this isn't viable and so we're going to close. But we've dedicated, Larry Fike has been working for the last 8 months almost full-time trying to work with the community to take this campus and make it something that is really an asset to the community. And Pitt is committed to being part of that future of this campus. But we recognize, given the trends and looking forward, that we can't do it alone, that Pitt on its own cannot meet the needs of this community. And so I want to be clear that we're committed to making this successful, but we have to make sure that we have all the pieces in place that would allow this to be successful. But this is not an attempt of ours to leave Titusville, to take our shingle and go home. It's our attempt to make this successful because we've been in Titusville for 50 years. We want to see Titusville be successful. And again, not just the city, but the whole region. And we see a role for Pitt in doing that. But again, we don't see that we can successfully do that on our own. So we're committing to try to move that forward in partnership. And I think I see Jim Broadhurst.
Tom, you said a lot of really great things, and your comments and I think your passion is very similar to the rest of ours here. And I think her explanation was very good. One of the things that I'm really enthusiastic about this, for those of you that don't know me, I grew up in Titusville, got my high school degree here. I was transferred, my father was transferred from here. He was the head of the steel company and transferred down to Bridgeville. So I left in 1961. I've been gone for 50-some years, but I've always had the love of Titusville in the back of my mind and have spent a lot of time up here and have followed this discussion for quite some time. I have both a blue and white and a blue and gold degree, so I feel safe coming back to this community because I know how that is very touchy here in this area. But Pitt, I'm convinced, is committed to this concept. A little reluctance in the beginning because of all the articles we would read about, but having had lots of conversations with the president of the university, I know he wants to demonstrate that this model can not only be successful in this community, but is going to be a great model for other places throughout Pennsylvania and throughout the country. We do have, the Pitt brand is important. There's no question, and I think we all have passion for that. And we all want to make sure that Pitt is committed to this, and I'm one that really, truly believes they are. And with the health sciences and with the medical side that they have, the strengths that they have, they can kick this off really with providing some of those courses that the people that want to go right into that field are going to have a great start. But we also know that these additional partners are going to be so important for this model to work. And that's why people like Bill Strickland and what he's able to accomplish. I've known Bill and been a friend of his for 30, 40 years, and I've seen what he's done in Pittsburgh, and it's remarkable for all those students that we know. And I've got a good friend right now, my administrative assistant. Her son just started off at college, was there for a month. He quit, didn't like it. He was at Robert Morris, a good school. But now what does he do? He doesn't have any other avenue to go in. Now he's not decided. Now he's going back and going to take a course or two at the community college, but he's got to drive a longer distance to do that. He's not going to have fun with that. He'll drop away from that. But this kind of a model that provides those kids that they're not ready to go to college, you know, they're not sure what they want to do. We as parents want them to go to college or do something, but to get them started in an operation where they can come to a campus like this, and whether they have no self-confidence and want to start let me just get into some of these classes, they'll get a lot of confidence in what they're doing, and they'll see the paths that they can move. And if they want to stay in the Pitt system, as they were explained earlier, there's lots of ways they can go and stay right in the Pitt system. But a lot of them are going to be turned on by what happens at Manchester Bidwell, what we call Manchester Craftsman's Guild in Pittsburgh, and what the community college that would be here would be able to provide as well. A lot of what's going to happen in the future, nobody can really say. They can't guarantee. I'm not asking them, are you going to guarantee you're going to be here 4, 5, 6 years from now? It really depends on us as a community to help them understand the kind of education we need. We need the young entrepreneurs, the smart people like Joe Thompson, who's at the back of the room here, that have these businesses that need the kind of training that Manchester can do and a community college can do. We need that component of this hub to really help us to get us back to having 500 students here instead of only 300 students. And that's going to be really important to get the feedback of the kind of education, kind of training that they need, because that's how these three partners, or maybe more, will begin to figure out what's the next step in some of the courses that they'll be providing. So it's a lot dependent on us to give them the feedback and what the kind of things are going to be very successful. We may find one of these three partners becomes wildly successful, and another one just does pretty well, and the other third one maybe has some challenges. But I think we're committed to make it work and make it work very effectively. So I think this is a great opportunity, and I think of it almost like what happened back in 1964, which was another great opportunity when we were able to successfully recruit Pitt to come on this campus. But it's time for the next step. It really is. When I talked to them early on, over a year ago, about what they were beginning to think about, I couldn't look at the past and say, well, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? Because I can see a lot of other schools are failing around the Commonwealth and around the country, and they're going to be closed if they don't come up with a model like we think we've come up with here. So we're all Titusville people that are proud of our heritage. We love being here, growing up here. This is a great first step, but it's going to depend on us as much as it's going to depend on these partners for us to help drive these people like Bill Strickland to develop the kind of courses and the kind of programs that we want to have on this campus. I mean, I have nothing to gain from this. I'm in the food service business, hospitality business, but maybe that becomes part of the partnership down the road. Who knows? We have an open mind on what's going to work and what isn't going to work, what our kids are going to want to go into. So they're providing really an interesting opportunity for us. So anything that you can do to help to build the enthusiasm and help with the thoughts on how we can make this work, congratulations, because I really appreciate the work they've done and where it's gone, where it was 6 months ago and where it is today. A lot more work to do. We got to sign up these partners. We got to get the board to approve this, because they're here on a very serious, they're making a decision and looking at all the different options. And they've got important due diligence to do. But I know the strength and the will of the Titusville people, and we're going to make this thing work. So thank you for.
I just wanted to kind of voice a little concern that I have. I had always thought of this campus as a 2-year liberal arts campus, and yet I'm hearing it referred to as a community college. And the difference in my mind is that a community college only has commuters. When we were at 500, and that's when I was working here, those large capacity of students, our dorms were overflowing, and they were overflowing from students from all around. In the region, there are many colleges, from Oil City to Erie, many to choose from, and vocational and training schools in the area as well. So my concern is that if we keep thinking of it as a community college and we close the residence halls, I don't believe down the road we are going to have enough population of students to make anything work. So that's kind of my concern, and I would like to please encourage you to come up with any kind of plan that allows for some for the residence halls to be kept open, and for us to use that as a drawing card for students who are not quite in the immediate area.
Thank you for the comment. I do want to say, I hope that we have not been referring to this as a community college, because that's not what we're thinking about. We're thinking about an educational hub that includes a community college. And as I said earlier, this collaboration of institutions that we're bringing together that are offering a range of programs across the entire spectrum of post-secondary education is one that has to come together to decide what sort of housing needs we need. And I take your point about the potential need for residence halls, but I did want to be clear that we're not thinking of this as a community college, but rather something that's much broader in its effort than that.
I have a follow-up question about the apprenticeships. Right now, the majority of apprenticeship programs are down in the Allegheny area, Allegheny County area. And those individuals go through, whether it's 2 or 4 years of their apprenticeship. There are other institutions, like the Community College of Allegheny County, that accepts their apprenticeship program as half of an associate's. And the residents from up in this area are not going to drive down to Pittsburgh to get the associates. They can't do that in the evening after working a full day. Right now, the Carpenters Union has a program, a cohort, where there are individuals, a group of 15 that are working on their associates, but they're doing it up in Erie. Is that a potential that you could look at these industry credentials, like an apprenticeship program, fully approved federal and state, and would Pitt be willing to look at that as, like Community College of Allegheny County does, and give those students like half of an associate's? For the Carpenters Union, they know if they do not go on and get their associates, they will never get into management, and that's what brought about the effort to bring that program up into the Northwest. But is that something that this hub would possibly look at doing? Because the majority of these full-blown apprenticeship programs, like the steam fitters and the carpenters, et cetera, are all down in Allegheny County.
Did you want to? I think that what you're pointing out is exactly the sorts of things that we're trying to explore with this, by having the different providers here, and what Larry referred to as stackable degrees could include the sorts of taking the certifications from training programs at other institutions or through apprenticeships and stacking them to be part of an associate's degree that might become part of another degree. So that's certainly the sort of thing that we're thinking about and talking about. And thank you for bringing up the apprenticeships, which are off this site, as a potential part of the educational flow that we're talking about.
Hi, I think I know all of you. I'm Mary Ann Caton, my second year here teaching history. My question is a political question. My understanding is, and I might be wrong about this, but that the partners in particular, maybe all of you, are going to require some kind of new state funding to make this happen. Is that the case? And if that's the case, given the realities in Harrisburg right now, which are not particularly good, how do you see that falling out? I mean, is that to me seems like the big stumbling block.
That's correct. The University of Pittsburgh has state funding, and we would not be asking for additional state funding. But our other partners, part of their business model is to have state funding. We would also be asking the Commonwealth to support partner with us in some of the facilities redesigns through the RCAP program. I know that the legislators who are here today are here to hear about this. As part of the reason they're here is because they're also interested in seeing how we can move this forward. We had a nice conversation earlier today about the state budget and the things that have to be balanced. And at this point, they can't commit anything, but they did commit that they're interested in this and they want to see how we can move this forward, and they're interested in helping us try to do that. But as you know, the state budget is what it is, and they need to work on that. So that is, as I said, there are contingencies that have to be addressed before this can come together, and that's one of the contingencies. And Michelle, or did you want to say anything? I think okay, thanks. Yeah. I also want to say that this group of legislators from this region have been partners with us all the way along for the last year and a half. They've been pushing us and pushing us to really come up with a good model of how this can work moving forward. And they've called us to meetings, we've called them to meetings, and I think that we've developed a good relationship on this because we all together want to see this move forward and succeed.
They've gone on our road trips with us to actually see what Manchester Bidwell looks like in Pittsburgh. It's been fabulous. They really understand, I think, what we're trying to do, and we're grateful.
Hi. So not only am I a Titusville native, I'm also a faculty member here and a Pitt alum. You know, I think that the training hub is fantastic, but my curious, I guess, question is there room for liberal arts anywhere in this new vision?
Yes, there'll be the community college, for example, has already asked us about whether they want we would like to have I think they call it liberal studies degree offered on this campus. You know, our focus in our initial program is on narrow programs in the health sciences, a narrow set of programs. We'll look at additional programs as well, but our criterion is going to be does it fit with Pitt's mission, which is, of course, would include the liberal arts, but also does it advance the region and make sense for the needs within the region. Patty?
I just want to elaborate a little bit to say that part of what we're talking with the other providers about is also articulation from their programs directly into our programs at Bradford and Johnstown and Greensburg and Pittsburgh, and really trying to develop that strong relationship that we already have between Titusville and those campuses, but extend that to all of the different providers that would be on this hub. So broadening the net of transfer to Pitt for the four-year degrees. Well,
my name is Meredith Kenyon. I'm on the faculty. I want to thank the board, the advisory board, and the trustees members who came, the board of trustees who came. Thank you. I guess I just want a little bit of clarification. Larry had pointed out earlier that, you know, the university is a non-for-profit, and the goal is, you know, to improve, to have a positive impact on the region. But we're also kind of hearing that, you know, faculty are expensive and we don't really help the bottom line. And in, you know, a couple years, we don't know the fate of the faculty, which I understand, you know, we can't see the future. But there is a really important human resource on this campus, and Leah had asked the question earlier about part of the reason that the campus is so important to the community is because it does bring people to Titusville, you know, that wouldn't normally be here. I'm not from Titusville. Our students who are optioned here are not from Titusville, and that's kind of what we do really well. We work really well with students who aren't from around here, who are not typical college students, kind of like what Mr. Strickland, I don't feel like I can call him Bill, what Mr. Strickland has done, you know, those students who, you know, students who maybe wouldn't make it in other places have a chance to make it here, but because we're not called a community college, they feel a little bit more like they're invested and involved and getting into something, and a lot of them are very nervous. And I had a student today in my English class stay after, and he said, "Miss Kenyon, I can't write. I'm scared to death." And I said, "Yep, that's fine. No problem. Here with as, you know, as few students, or, you know, the number of students that I have, I can devote plenty of attention to you. That's what my job is my job is to make sure you succeed." And so I guess my question is, I'm just kind of hearing conflicting things about kind of, I think the faculty brings something really important to the community. I think we bring something really important to our students, all of the faculty, not just nursing, not just liberal arts, I mean, all of us. The same thing with our staff. Our students have nothing but nice things to say about our staff because they feel so supported by the staff. And a lot of these students are first-generation college students. They don't have support at home. They can't ask a parent, "What should I schedule?" Their parents don't know. they can't ask their parents about financial aid. Their parents don't know. They get all of that from us, and we all give that to them very freely. And so I guess my question is just, how do you marry this together? I mean, the faculty are a really important human resource here, and the students from all over Pennsylvania, as she had pointed out, are a really important part of the impact here. The educational hub sounds like it's only looking to serve the region, which I understand, and I'm really excited that Pitt is taking this on, because I think that that's where higher ed needs to look. But it just sounds to me like there is a little bit of like a message that's not being clear about how people who have been here and are devoted to working here aren't really looking like they're going to be a picture of it after the summer of 2020. Am I clear or am I not?
I think that you're raising a very, very hard question for us as we move forward. As we've tried to say, what we're trying to do is offer a set of programs that are both viable and meet the community needs. We presented a set of options earlier to try to get, it's our belief that if we continue doing what we're doing right now, we're not going to be successful on this campus. That is something that the trends are all working against us here. Can I say, and I'll say it has nothing to do with our faculty or staff. I agree completely that we have a fabulous faculty and staff. If you look over the last 5 years, the retention, the graduation rates, the student success on this campus has improved. But that's improved quite dramatically because of the commitment of people on this campus. The challenge has been not that people here aren't doing excellent work. They are. The challenge has been the rest of the world. The trends in higher education have been such that, and particularly in Western Pennsylvania, that there just isn't enough students to make this work with just that one group of students. So the future of the faculty, we talked about the last time I was in town a couple of weeks ago. We're doing what we can over the next 2.5 years as we transition to try to bring in these partners to see what we can do with the excellent staff and faculty that we have. Again, Pitt on its own is likely not to be employing all of the current employees. There are going to be other partners here on this campus. We'll be working with them to help meet their employment needs. And we also have other campuses within the University of Pittsburgh, and we'll be working with people to try to address those needs. And that's where we are right now, is that we'll be offering these programs that we currently offer for the next 2.5 years. And during that time, we're going to be working to see what else is needed on this campus, what human and physical resources are needed, and what role Pitt can play in helping to move everyone along, because everyone has been contributing, and this is a situation that has come from outside. Yep.
This goes back to the initial question that I raised. One of the things that I would want to see happen is, the one thing that I would like to see happen is that as much as possible, that if certain instructional duties are taken over by one of the partners, Butler County Community College, for example, that this transferal of human resources over to Butler be effected as seamlessly as possible, or that if you continue to have Pitt programs here, that you keep the people, as many of the people, here as you can. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, the thing of it is, keep this in mind, we're part of this community. We do community service. With that, we're also taxpayers in this community. Something that, you know, that after the end of 2.5 years, a mass exodus from this place will hurt Titusville immeasurably. Mm-hmm. All right, it will literally be a brain drain. And once that happens, you're not going to get that back. all right? And that's the term brain drain, that's an old Cold War expression. So the thing of it is that I think it would behoove all of you to please keep in mind that the best outcome in that regard is to try and achieve as much of a seamless transition as possible. For the health of the institution, for the health of the hub, for the health of Titusville, for the health of Crawford County, and for the health of northwestern Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Through my 36 years of coaching, I had a simple philosophy. If you fail to plan, plan to fail. And it's obvious that you folks have put the time in. But we're talking about 2.5 years down the road. We're talking about jobs that we don't even know that are going to exist. But we may be offering a situation where we can move as society moves and not be locked into the tradition. Again, I'm a 36-year educator. I mean, I've seen the educational elephant move real slow. And when it has to move fast, a lot of people don't want it to move fast. You know, I think that what I hear as the strength of your planning is you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're trying to take a wheel that's been successful and add some extra spokes to it. But remember what the hub of the wheel is, though, too. The hub of the wheel is what really counts. You can add as many spokes as you want. 1968, my best friend said to me, I said, "Hey, Bill, what are you going to do at college?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to IUP and study computers." In 1968, I had to go home and look that up. What's a computer? You know, for $95, you could get that little red, crystal calculator, and my folks weren't rich enough for that, so I had to do the math in my head. But what I'm saying is, I think one of the things in your planning phase is that you have incorporated the idea that you're just not shooting into the dark, that you have found models that can work into the wheel. But again, I'm very impressed with the planning phase. But the implementation phase is where the potholes occur. And you got to be ready for those. And I see Tim McCord in the audience here, and we did a major change in our academics here a couple years ago. And as a department, we made a philosophy, either get on the bus or get rolled over by the bus. Because the bus is moving. And the problem is, in our society, it's just moving faster and faster all the time. And we have got to create an environment for our kids that they're able to ride a bus here that takes them to where they want to go. Too oftentimes our kids go and get trained, they come back here and what they have changes and they can't retrain here, so they have to leave again. I think this may offer that opportunity. This is my first meeting. I'm really kind of blown away. I wasn't going to talk, but Mike Reynolds made me, so there it is.
Thank you. Thank you for talking.
I just wanted to follow up and support what Richard said about the staff, the faculty, the administration, and how important and how valued they are in our community, because they do volunteer and sit on boards and commissions and participate in the community, and they're a critical piece of Titusville. And that's one of my concerns of why I raised the question earlier. Kind of along the same vein, though, I do have another question. Over the past 5 years, the administration of this campus has moved away from Titusville to Bradford. Now, you're saying that University of Pittsburgh is going to be the leader in the development of this hub. Will that leadership come out of Titusville, or will that continue to come out of Bradford or main campus or some other place?
The plan, and I'll let Larry talk about it, does include having a campus leader here at Titusville who would be the leader of the campus for all of the partners that are on the campus, so that it's, again, a place that people can come to and not have to go from one to another, and the individual who's the leader would aggressively be working with the community to move forward. So there would be a campus leader here in Titusville.
And working with all of the academic partners too, working with Pitt and working with the community college and so on. So that person's in charge of operating the campus and also this outreach into the community and linking the programs on the campus, all of the programs on the campus, to the community. Critical part, I think. But separate that from the Pitt programs, and the Pitt programs that are offered here would be under the auspices of the president of the Bradford campus as they are now.
I have another question for you. 2 weeks ago, we held a petrochemical summit thanks to Senator Brooks, Senator Hutchison, Senator Dan O'Loughlin, and brought together all the economic development agencies, et cetera, the legislators. Even our governor is saying that we have a once-in-a-life opportunity right now to work on the whole petrochemical industry agenda and all of the training that's going to need to be provided. And thanks to their foresight, our legislators' foresight, we had that summit and started a real process of looking at that. I haven't heard that brought up at all, and that's something that I think is crucial to Western Pennsylvania, is what are we going to do? What is Pitt going to do in their efforts to address this whole need because of the Shell cracker plant that's being built, plus a couple more that will probably be built? Is in this effort anything going to be done to look at the petrochemical industry and the needs of that?
I guess, Lance, I guess I'd say that without answering that question specifically, I think the general sense here is that the campus and the leader of the campus would be, part of their mandate would be working with industry to figure out what those needs are and have that reflected in program offerings here. So to the extent that any industry is growing, it would be that person's responsibility to bring programs in here that meet the needs of that growing industry. That's the job.
And I'd say that what we're trying to do, again, is to set up a collaborative so that the industry can look to this hub, and the hub can look to the industry across a wide range. It's not just, a particular type of worker who's going to be in the petrochemical. They're going to need accountants. They're going to need business people, engineers, different people across a different spectrum. And by bringing everybody together at one place, you can have a comprehensive review and discussion of the needs and how they're going to be met, rather than having that distributed across a lot of different entities. So it's exactly the sort of problem that you're bringing up that a hub like this would be specifically designed to address.
Good afternoon. My name's Terry Funk. I'm a former educator in Titusville. I've been here for a number of years and have been fortunate to know a lot of the fine people here associated with the University of Pittsburgh at Titusville. I don't have a question, but I have a plea for you, because I hope you understand today that our community will walk out of here, half the people seeing the glass half empty, half the people seeing the glass half full. And I applaud you, first of all, for your forward thinking and the plans and the time that you have put in. My plea for you is this. At the University of Pittsburgh, you have a tremendous amount of resources. And your marketing department seems to do a tremendous job marketing your other campuses very, very well. And yet I have watched some pretty terrific people at this campus sometimes become, every time we feel like we get the ball rolling here, a press release comes out from Oakland that says, we're looking to close it, or we're looking to have a diminished mission, or something like that, that sometimes has really deflated the people in this room. And what we need to know is, will we have the full support of the University of Pittsburgh and all their resources and all their marketing and their financial people down there, so that you're not here today giving us hope and 6 months later our people up here pick up on a press release out of the university that just punches them in the gut. And that's all my plea is to you is please make sure that the people down in Pittsburgh are on board with this program, support this program, and give this program every opportunity to succeed that this community needs it to. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, I was going to ask Bill Strickland if you wanted to give any thoughts about it, what role you see Manchester Bidwell playing here.
You want me to come up or stay here?
Just there. You can stay
fine.
there if you'd like.
Our view is, well, first of all, I built training centers for poor people. Let's start there. And we've been doing it for 50 years in Pittsburgh. And we've built 2, actually, up in this area. Senator Brooks and I just opened one up in Sharon, successfully. 500 people showed up for the opening, largely poor people, who somehow were able to figure out that the conversation is about hope, not despair. Pete Verschetti is our chair in Brockway. We have been operating for 5 years in Brockway, 100% graduation of every student who's gone to work in the industry. Same demographic is right here. And so my message is we can solve this problem in Titusville. The resources are here, the need is here, the leadership is here. I think that you have everything that you need to turn this conversation around dramatically in a very short period of time. So that my encouragement to you as one of your potential partners in this thing is that let's talk about solving the problem, not describing the problem. And I think that that orientation will make a fundamental difference in the way that you think about your future. The worst thing about poverty is what it does to your spirit. Poor people, from what I can gather, never have a nice day. So our philosophy is let's figure out ways to create world-class environments, engaging world-class faculty in a future that is forward-looking, not looking in the past. Now, I've opened 10 centers, one of which is in Israel. And we have Jews and Arabs going to school together. So if I were you, I'd follow me. Palestinian kids and Jewish kids. And somebody said, well, where's the security system? I said, it's called the student body. If you build centers of hope, you get hope. If you build prisons, you get prisoners. So what we've decided to do is to build centers of hope. And that is only why I'm interested in coming to this place. So if you guys are on a hope agenda, then I'm your guy. If you want to keep just, turning the coin over in the same space, it ain't going to work. We tried that. So why don't we try something different, like innovation, maybe? By the way, I train technicians for Calgon Carbon, BASF, Nova Chemical in Pittsburgh. Poor people who have the same demographic as the people who in this community. I have 100 technicians working for the Bayer Chemical Company in Pittsburgh who had high school aptitudes and are now making 6 figures in less than 12 months. for real. Black, white, and everybody in between. So we know that in answer to your question about energy, the technology is fundamentally the same. There isn't that much technical difference. So if I can pull this off in Pittsburgh, in a poor black neighborhood, with a high crime rate, what's your excuse? I mean, for real. You have to change the thought process. The education people are here. Oh, by the way, I happened to bump into the governor the other day after I had talked to Joe Scarnati, who she knows quite well, and Pete knows quite well, and I said, what do you think about Titusville? He said, 2 thumbs up, and tell him I told you. So we've got the President Pro Tem on your side, and the governor said that he's going to support this program, and I have a witness. Chancellor Nordenberg was there when he said it, right in the front row. Unplanned, of course, but he was sitting right there, and the governor committed himself and was very excited about the conversation that we've developed in Titusville. So I'm telling you, you've got resources sitting here right in front of your face, and there is no excuse as to why this thing can't work. I will not accept failure. If I'm going to dial into this thing, we're going to make this thing work, and we're going to turn the lights on and get this conversation underway. Thank you for the 2 minutes of my presentation.
So I want to thank Bill Strickland and everyone for your comments. I want to repeat what Larry said, that we're going to be posting the proposal. Again, it is a feasibility study, not the full vision of what we anticipate will happen here. But please send your comments in or write to me personally if you have comments. We really are interested in hearing what the community has to say, because we can't do this alone. The only way that we're going to be successful, as Bill said, is if we're in this together and we tackle this together and we come together to move the community and the education and training forward. So thank you for spending the time with us. And again, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.